When's the podcast like officially starting, by the way?
In 10 minutes.
Okay, I'm gonna ping my guys so nobody shows up.
This is the pre-stream, you know? You ever gone to the toilet?
Like officially starting, by the way.
The,
I've never gone to the toilet. Funny you mentioned.
A toilet? I'm using that.
I heard toilet too. I'm assuming you said Twilight. Did you actually say toilet or did you say Twilight?
This is the pre-stream. You ever gone to the toilet and you had to
Are
pee?
you saying toilet or
Okay, he did say
twilight?
toilet. Yes,
And
I have
then-
gone to the toilet.
And then you have like a pre-stream, but then the main stream comes after the
Okay,
pre-stream.
yeah, that's a good analogy.
Do
Sure.
you just have two
Yeah, don't
holes in your
use.
thing?
You shouldn't use the analogy in that specific analogy because then it just pops up different visions of other things. Sorry, just terrible humor. I'm sorry.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, I
Let's-
mean,
let's-
speaking to what you said, like, I think I don't really know about the drama that happened in Foxhole. The biggest thing I heard about was just resource. Oh hey, like resource uh, disagreements,
Hmm.
like people just arguing over resource nodes.
I mean, I only got 100 hours in Foxhole, so take whatever I say with just a hint of me being a noob. But this war components have been pretty much fucked. Like I don't understand. I'm not entirely sure why. My suspicion is that the devs just somehow reduced the amount of components that are available on a map at all times, and there's just too many people fighting for components. In the in the very beginning of the war, there was some clan that didn't speak English too well trying to claim a component field, and it was a
But
mess.
did they use the word component then, or was it like a different word for it?
No, it was a component field.
Yeah, I know, but did they use a different word because of the communication problem? Like maybe they thought they were.
No, I wasn't there. All I'm saying is what I heard.
Yeah, but what did you hear though? Because maybe
Like
it
I
wasn't the
heard that
same
there.
word.
Well, I all I heard is that a clan that wasn't communicating well in English tried to claim a component field, and you don't really do that in Foxhole. So, a bunch of other clans flooded that area and started like a whole drama. That's all I heard.
Okay. I don't know. It sounds kind of
Yeah,
weird, but it's
yeah, but
I've come from a different game, which is Project Reality, which is an old game.
yeah,
And
Battlefield mod.
yeah, and they had this thing called asset squads. So it was for whoever made the squad named tank first, they got to claim the tanks, and that was usually what the argument was about. Was
It's the same as squad, to be honest.
yeah, but the squad thing
'Cause
is
Squad is technically a spiritual successor to Project Reality, even though it never died.
yeah, true, but I mean like it's I don't get that kind of drama there as much compared to Project Reality. Like that drama dies down really quickly in Squad, whereas in PR it's like a really big issue
Makes
for
sense.
people.
I don't know, but like in Foxhole right now, in the current state of the war, components are really scarce, and everyone is just trying to get whatever they can. There's like a component. I've been on multiple component fields this test, just gathering them, and it was basically like 6 or 7 people hammering the exact same component node because there were none around to share.
Okay. That sucks. I mean, I hope we don't get that in Anvil. I hope we get. So, what I'm really hoping with this game is that we get sort of a opposite problem where there's just too much space, there's too much abundance, there's a lot of players. Don't get me wrong, but there's just humongous maps. I just really hope the devs are able to pull that off because that was my impression of some of the stuff that they've been posting. Is they're gonna go way bigger with this game.
I mean, all we're discussing right now is really fitting into my topic pretty well because like here's the difference that I see with Foxhole is that in Foxhole there is only two ways to concentrate people in a way that like they're working together. It's the front line, so you have people sitting on the front line and more or less communicating in some way, trying to like basically they have a joint goal of either keeping the enemy from pushing or pushing back the enemy. And the second way to do that in Foxhole is through facilities, because if you have a clan, for example, then your clan is maintaining a facility, and the people who are maintaining it have a joint goal of keeping it alive and keeping it producing. I don't see any other way of like uh, that it was intended by the game developers to keep players clumped together and organized. Sure, you can do operations, but that's something a clan organizes. That's not something that the game is necessarily like providing you the tools with. That's done by the people, by the leadership of the clans. But in Anvil, you have the settlements, which are quite literally the group's entire goal is to just protect the settlement and keep it growing. So instead of having just like very few ways to unify players, the entire gameplay loop revolves around a unified area and objective for small groups of players that flows into the whole faction's objective of winning.
Yeah. No, I hear you. It's like it's similar to Eve, but Eve is just like nonstop. It just never ends.
I mean, yeah, I've never played Eve. I know y'all are spending a whole lot of money there fighting wars, but
Oh no, not me. I'm just saying.
I mean y'all as in like players.
Okay, because I thought you meant me.
I've seen your bank accounts, Wicca.
Really?
Yes, you spent too much money on Anvil.
I can. I was on the skins, right? There's like one for if you want to be a cat. Like it really caters to the furry community. I feel like this game really has.
You have far
That's the
too
only
many
reason I
pictures.
joined.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna start the stream. Well,
Let's go.
technically, the stream has been going for 10 minutes.
Oh God.
That's cool. Don't worry. Nothing.
No, I just said I was a furry. I am worried.
I mean, I said it as a joke. I'm assuming you said it as a joke.
I said it as a joke too, but people aren't
Yeah.
going to take it that way.
It depends on how you take it. How do you take it?
No.
That's a good response.
Anyway, yeah, no. Welcome to the stream. So I'm obviously Wicca. I'll be the host slash moderator, but it's going to be a pretty chill podcast. I don't think we're going to get into any drama. This isn't a meeting. It's more of a discussion about the game. So going off topic or not, sticking within the confines of what you would call the topic is okay as long as you don't bore us all. I think everyone here has the mental capacity to do that. We do have a few topics today we're going to try to cover. Last time we didn't get to cover all of them. So we're going to be talking about impressions of the last test, which I think is going to be pretty quick this time because it was fairly short and sweet. We're going to look at the testing schedule. Then people came with a few suggestions on a few topics, so I sort of merged a few of them together without telling people properly, so I apologize about that. But yeah, we got trade, we got logistics, we got farming, and we got scouting. And then I got 6 twice. Hold on, let me fix that. Okay. Well, it seems my OBS just crashed. But can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you.
We can.
Okay, well, yeah, it doesn't want me to edit the. Well, I guess we'll just have a double 6 then. Well,
Having double sex? Let's do this.
no. Anyway, so if there's any other stuff we need to talk about, then we'll talk about that. With us today, we got a bunch of fine gentlemen. We got Logi Louie, Air Mike. We got Freeze. Hey, Freeze.
Hello.
Bonjour or bonsoir.
Bonjour. Bonsoir, yeah.
Steelhand. Me. Hereward the Baked.
Yeah, baby.
Next, Kobe Westside and Soul Raven. Yeah, so we're gonna go from the top. Logi, could you just give me like a short, sweet? Oh, can you double check, guys, if the stream is still working? Because this OBS just completely broke for me.
Seems to be, yeah.
Really? How the hell
Yeah.
is it doing that? Well, I might have to restart it because I can't switch between the pages. So actually, I'm gonna. Before you guys start introducing yourself, let me just restart OBS and then. All right, and we should be back. I'm sorry for the interruption, everyone. I guess I can't edit stuff live for some reason. I'll have to figure that out later. Anyway, yeah, so Logi Louie, could you just give me a short and sweet? Why do you play Anvil? Why'd you show up here? And what do you want to do in the future in this game?
Well, I'm part of the Caligo Trading Consortium. We're going to deal with trade inside the game. And yeah, that's what our goal in the future will be, trade and things like that.
All right, cool. And why do you want to play Anvil Empires?
Well, the developers of this game from Foxhole got me into something like that. So yeah, I'm just happy to help develop something like this in its early stages.
Okay, cool. And Air Mike, what about you? Why do you play this game?
I play Anvil because it is a very interesting concept that uses the ideas that Siege Camp had come up with for Foxhole, but they're basically creating a new universe with all new game mechanics and new game objectives set in the medieval world, which I find a lot more engaging. So I just like it. It's just a simplified answer. I just like it.
Okay, cool. And Freeze, why do
Yeah.
you play
Why
this
I
game?
play Foxhole? No, it's
Yeah,
not Foxhole.
Foxhole. Why do you play Foxhole?
Because I'm a Foxhole player first, and I discovered this game like 2 years ago, and I jump on it. I think it's a good project, and we can do a wonderful thing in it. It's that.
Yeah, cool. You've done some pretty cool stuff. Pretty big battles. That's one of the reasons why you want to play, right? Big battles.
Yeah. Our main objective with my clan and the French community is to create a big confederation with all clan all French clan, another clan.
Yeah, very nice. Very cool. A very noble goal.
Yeah.
What about you, Stillhand? Why do you play Anvil Empires?
Why I played? Well, I got introduced by it through a YouTuber called was it I See a Bear, I think. He plays Foxhole now, but he was very excited about the new game they were trying to put out, and I looked it over and kind of thought, yeah, it kind of looks like a game I played once many years ago in my childhood. Age of Empires, something like that, but more like third person. You're one of the small serfs, and it was kind of intriguing, the whole concept. So, yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
the whole reason.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for me personally, I really like medieval games and games where you have to cooperate with other people. So that really drew me to this game. It looked like a RTS game, but everyone was sort of like doing their own thing. And I knew these guys' experience with Foxhole, so I knew it was going to be. It wasn't like what's it called, like fake game or like fake promises. I knew that there was substance to it because they have the technology or whatever you say. So yeah, that's what drew me to this game. Mr. Baked, How do you say your name?
Hereward, innit? You know, like Hereward the Wake, the OG, like last Saxon dude. I don't know. It's just a meme name. I go by many names.
Is that
Change it every
British?
test.
British history?
Hey, yeah.
Yeah, I
He
didn't
sort
read
of
that.
fought back against the Normans after William the Conqueror invaded, innit?
No, I didn't. I didn't read that.
Yeah, man. It's sort of combination of that and the fact that I'm always baked.
All right. And why? What got you into Anvil Empires?
Hey, well, I was a Foxhole partisan back in the day, and yeah, seeing a new game in a new time period, which is sort of more my historical interest, and like you know, they sort of basing it on the invasion of you know, like colonization of England, and that's where I'm from. So yeah, man.
All right, cool. Yeah, no worries. Next.
Hey, I'm Nex. I'm from Order of Caligo. I found the game on the trailer back in March, and since that I just fell in love with the game. And yeah, I really like doing frontline combat and building settlements.
Cool. And Settlements and Frontline Combat loves you too. Kobe Westside, why do you play this game?
Oh, yo, I'm Kobe. I am in. We were Taurus, but we just changed our name to Exalted Winged Hussars. We're doing the cavalry stuff.
Do you want to change your prefix?
I will here in a second. I'm in a game here.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I'd say I play it just like because I like community games, community-based games, and I actually picked this up before I tried Foxhole out, and Foxhole wasn't my cup of tea. I don't really care for World War II stuff, but medieval stuff's really cool. So, yeah, that's pretty much why.
Yeah. And then Salt Raven.
Yo, yeah, part of Astria Warhost, just one of the high command officer people there, and I started playing this game mostly to. I've led before, and I've been in, you know, in high intensity PvP games before, but nothing to this scale. And I was given the opportunity to have a big, you know, name in the game, so I decided to keep with it. I've been following this game's development for a while, and I'm just super excited for what the combat is going to look like and sieging and stuff like that. I've always been a big medieval nerd, playing Age of Empires before and whatnot for a big part of my childhood. So the fact that you can sort of jump into this game as a unit in what is essentially Age of Empires, I feel like is going to be something that I'll stick around with as my main game for quite some time. So yeah.
Cool. And we got 3 guys in chat. Ted Red says he loves chopping trees. Some guy named Brian Lewis says that CTC has a sawbuck with Ted Red's name on it, and some dude named Vincenti said epic. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe chat should be quiet because it's not useful. Not useful information. Anyway, we're gonna move on to the next point in our podcast, which is our impressions of the last test. So we'll start with the good from the obvious, the good, the bad, and the ugly, which I think is a American spaghetti western. But anyway, let's start with the good. What was the good parts of the last test? Anyone?
The fact that we did not have to pay tax anymore. That was amazing.
Okay.
As I understand, the map is not as cluttered because they reduced the amount of settlements that showed up based on, I believe, on population.
Yeah. So the 10 biggest ones showed.
Mm-hmm.
They removed the Homestead extensions.
Oh, all the animals weren't frozen.
Oh yeah. Say that one more time, please.
You can combine no taxes and homestead rework into a single point, actually.
Yeah.
Sure. What else? Well, I mean, personally, I didn't lose anything whilst switching from one map to another, but I don't know if that was the new norm. I don't know if you guys tried anything.
It's mostly trying out building new structures. Figuring out, does this build work, and layouts mostly for us. And does this location work for us, or do we need to move, or do we stay? That was the most we this test.
Yeah. I just write good time for testing stuff out. I think that's appropriate. Yeah.
Especially scouting for future stuff.
Yeah, that's a good.
I think Hereward mentioned it, but the wildlife seemed to not get glitched out as often.
Oh yeah. Basically, like I just did the scouting the whole test. I only played the first day, but yeah, man, that was the main thing I noticed. Just all the animals were working again, and you could see like we had a lot of play problems in previous tests where they'd all end up in the rivers, but yeah, now you see herds of like boars and deers around like you sort of didn't before. You'd normally see them sort of around the start, and then they'd sort of all disappear. But yeah, they've got that down a lot better. There definitely weren't as many issues with like being able to like find them and whatnot.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, it wasn't a very eventful test. So we're gonna move on to the bad now. I guess is everyone good with that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I've got one thing definitely.
All right. So what is the bad?
In my opinion, the schedule. I know why they have to do it, but the reason why the minor tests are always going to be small and minor is not just the focus of the test, but also the availability of everyone during the test. As I understand, I think it might have gone down at some point as well, if that's true. Until they start increasing the amount of time that the tests are open, it's always going to be a very low population. Yeah, I'm sorry if you hear the Discord pings in the background. Let me see if I can mute that.
Your Discord pings are that loud?
I hear every now and then I get comments on that. So, but anyways, so regarding that, if they either extend it or have it start near the end of the week instead of in the middle, I feel like they'll be able to get a lot more features tested out, and a lot more consistent bug fixing can be done, and general reporting and whatnot will be allowed. I know that the devs have a schedule of their own, and I'm sure that they have their own schedule that they have to work off as far as who's doing what in their team. But I feel like at some point there has to be some sort of shift, and maybe it's not possible. Maybe I'm being too selfish as a player, but the schedule is always something that I've had a problem with, especially near the beginning. Recently, it's great because we get those weekend tests, and they're always the major test, which is awesome. But I feel like they have to start ramping up that more. I don't know. Maybe someone disagrees with me.
I mean, I don't disagree with you, but to be fair, the minor test used to be just 6 hours per day for 2 days, where they would have the servers open for 6 hours, they would shut them down, they would work on stuff, and then they would reopen them up the next day for
100%.
another 6 hours. But now, the last minor test, it was honestly just like, if you disregard the when it was basically a major test because it was open for 72 hours.
Right, and that's part of the thing where I think that instead of ramping up the time, because the time is great, 3 days, whatever for a minor test, that's awesome, but the time is like right in the middle, peak US work hours, so I can never make the minor tests. And by the time I do get on, if they are 24/7, nobody's on. So it's just kind of me alone, even with war. And I'm sure other settlements have the same issue. There's maybe one or two people on at a time. So if they are going to keep it over 24/7 periods, they should do it at a time where people don't have to worry about work. Because what's the point of keeping it on overnight if there's going to be barely anybody on, like 20, 30 players online, if that overnight, you know what I mean? But I don't know. Maybe there's a reason. Maybe I'm missing something.
But is that everything that was bad with the last test? There was just
In my
scheduling?
opinion. Yeah, I'm sure other people may have something.
I think I was kind of hoping for more features or like more, because I felt like once they added the workshops, it was like a pretty big addition, and they haven't really done big changes like that. They've just been balancing the homestead, which fine, but I would like to see more features added or more stuff to test out.
I mean, here's the thing. I'm a software engineer myself. I am new to the industry. Don't get me wrong. I don't have years of experience behind me, but I have some experience. And from my understanding, right now the devs are not really trying to add features. What they're trying to do is basically just refine the back end because if you remember during the major test, we had a lot of issues with the border regions where people would get sent to the Shadow Realm just out of nowhere while crossing one. Caravans would not be able to cross. But this test, I honestly did not have as bad of a time with border regions than I did before, which means the devs kind of went in and they patched things up. And in my opinion, they should definitely keep going this way because the border regions is an integral part of Anvil because like the map is divided into regions and you need to be able to cross them. So if that's just buggy and very very bad to use, it doesn't matter how good the rest of the game is because even if for example, I don't know, farming or cooking or whatever is very in depth and fun, if you're just going to keep losing your items to the random bugs at the border region, you're just going to get frustrated and quit.
Yeah, no, good point. I'm gonna redact my statement. It's a good point.
And the CTC as like a trading group, we were messing with the marketplace, and I wouldn't really call this so much like a bad thing. It's just not optimized yet. But the marketplace has a default value which will sell all items to the world if no player buys it after a certain time, and certain like loopholes were like chainmail armor. You could sell a single chainmail armor at a default price of 26 silver, but if you sold a barrel of 10 chainmail armor, it would only default at 3. So again, it wasn't really like something bad. It's just something that they haven't optimized yet, and that's what we took notice as a trading group.
I'd say trade still has a long way to go. Um,
Oh, I'm sure. I believe it.
yeah, if you're trading, I would honestly in this current state of the game, I would say forget the market stall, instead just trade by hand. Because you can set your own prices that way, you can make sure that the goods are not lost and they get handed to the people in a proper way.
I agree. As someone who doesn't do Logi like at all unless I need to, and I probably won't be doing right now. I do Logi because I have to. Because if I don't, then the settlement will decay and all sorts of other stuff, and we need food. But in the future, I'm probably going to be doing zero Logi. And as someone from an outside perspective who doesn't, I guess this is PVE is the sort of area that we're looking at versus PvP. I don't see myself using a stall with what I've seen so far. If they keep the prices and how it works, how it is, I feel like the play will be to only trade by hand. And that's in pretty much any game that you see with trading. I don't think I've seen a single game other than Age of Empires, because otherwise trading is not possible really, where people use the in-game implemented market. They always trade with each other because the devs either get the prices wrong or it's just never worth it. And the only time that people use the market is noobs because they don't know that those other options exist, or people who are trying to exploit it for whatever reason.
Vending machines in Rust is very useful now.
Oh, I don't play Rust, so maybe that's different. How does that work in there? Would that be a good implementation here, you think?
The player is very player driven. Like the players can choose everything. So,
well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Player driven is the way that it's going to go, but the in-game market is always bad. So I feel like that's not going to change here. I feel like markets in this game, there's always going to be a better option if you go to a player or a clan instead of the in-game market. Markets are left as a last resort or people who don't have another option or don't know of it, in my opinion.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the ugly part of the last test. Thank you for your input, guys. What were the ugly parts of the test?
Personally, I don't have one.
I'd say the only ugly part I can think of is the new rope mechanic that they added. It's ugly in the sense that it can be useful, but it's very buggy and kind of the bugs defeat the point of using it. So like yes, you can tie a rope to an animal and lead it, but when are you going to do that?
I think the whole point of that feature was to have a succession or successive number of animals that you could pull behind you at the same time.
True. Yeah, yes, but you can't do that with carriages, so you can't chain carriages together, for example.
No, that's true.
Yeah, and then B, if you get, it's very buggy, first of all, and if you get far away, or if the horse you're trying to pull, or not the horse, but like the animal you're trying to pull, goes into a weird position, the rope's just gonna break automatically. So I don't see it as a very viable thing to do. I hope they improve on it because I can see a lot of good use cases for it. But right now, it's a feature that has potential, but right now it's kind of useless.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. Anything else that was ugly?
You can still not cross borders with 3 people on the boat, only one, the
Yeah,
driver.
it's awful.
That sucks.
Yeah, but it will get worked on. Development is a pretty difficult process, and especially if it's a completely proprietary system, the R2 engine that they're making, it'll get solved, but bugs are expected.
Sure. Yeah. What about lack of players who joined? Like people didn't get the access. Well, not like they didn't give a lot of people keys this time around.
I'd argue they did that because they opened the floodgates for the major test pretty wide, because that was the test I got in after waiting for 6 months, which I'm very happy about. But I'd argue they didn't let a lot of people in because they hoped that a bunch of those that got in for the major one would also join the minor. But because of the timing, I suppose, and just the nature of a minor test, people don't really treat it as a very serious thing, which makes sense. I mean, it makes sense. So the devs just hope that people from the previous tests that got in fresh would also join the minor one. That's why they didn't let a lot of people in.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The reason why the minor tests are minor in population is same thing regarding earlier, that schedule is just not optimal for people. If they're going to expect people to join for minor tests to actually test them, not to go in, because it feels like the major test, and I think the devs know this, the major tests, people go in, the majority of people don't go in to test it, they go in because they want to play the game. And I know that people shouldn't be doing that, and I agree with that. However, that is just the nature of things, and that's not going to change. Unless you're running it in a completely closed environment like ages ago, you should expect that everyone joining is not joining to test, they're joining to play. Minor tests, to people who join, they join to test because they want to test the features, see how it goes, relay that information to their clan so that they have that knowledge moving forward, and they can also relay complaints or bug reports or whatever to the devs. But because of that timing, you're going to get less people overall, which means you're going to have less of those features tested, less of those bugs fixed, and everything else.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I agree with you on the last sentiment there when it comes to, or perhaps it was your first one, but Like players are going to play to have fun because their game that they want people to test happens to be fun. And if people say that they're playing to have fun, they shouldn't be shamed for having fun.
Right.
But anyway, it is how it is. Oh, I forgot actually. I was going to do this earlier, but Calculated, you just joined us. Do you mind telling us how you got into Anvil Empires? What drew you to the game?
Um, First and foremost, what's up, everyone? Um, well, I come from a different community similar to such. The game is called Conqueror's Blade. I don't know if anyone's played that, but I like the art style of it, the play style, and the concept. Plus, I used to play Foxhole for a little bit, so when I first saw it, I was like, huh, a game like Foxhole plus medieval, and it looks like the game I usually play. So it was like, all right, bet. So I requested access like 9 months ago, actually, and like a month ago or two, I actually got accepted in, and I was like, bet. So that's what got me into it. Currently, I'm trying to get everyone else from my other community into this, and it's working out pretty well.
Cool. Welcome. Hope you enjoy your time in the podcast. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything more ugly to talk about, so I'm just going to leave it at that. I think that's
I
okay.
I do have one point to add for your question earlier. I just realized. So you said something that you had was that why didn't they open it up more? And I think part of the reason is mostly because it's a minor test, and not just because they were expecting more people to join from the major test, but because it's a minor test. I can tell that they're doing something on the back end with their servers, trying to test the capacity. I don't know if they're opening up or allocating more resources to their servers during these minor tests or less overall to see what the capacity is versus what their servers can handle. But I feel like that's why they didn't open it up. For major tests, I feel like they're going to allow more people in as a general rule of thumb. For minor ones, they may allow some people in just to see if they can push it a little bit farther. And then the major test is when they're like, okay, this is what we saw on the back end. This is our servers struggled here during this peak hour. Maybe we need to overall increase the capacity to X amount. So for the major test, we'll allow this many people in because we're going to do this thing. That's my general guesstimation, I guess, as to why.
Yeah, cheers. All right. I think we can jump to the next topic now. Thank you all for your contributions, and yeah, if you think about anything that you want us to talk about regarding the ugly, just let me know. Now we're going to talk about the test schedule, which isn't a very big topic, but here is an overview. So the next test is in 4 days. How many people do you think are going to show up for that test?
Not many. Probably around the same as any other minor test. Even if they increase it, it's not going to be too many consistent people online, in my opinion. We're going to see mostly people in December, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. True. And 29th. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say my clan was very excited for the big test that's coming up. Uh, I don't know about the other remnant clans or anything, but our guys were at least very excited for the big test.
Yeah.
For testing out farming and new build order and doing better logistics with wood.
You got some plans?
Yeah, we got some plans.
Cool. Don't share them. There's ancient people here.
I need your plan, please.
You can talk to us. Yeah, talk to us. We're
It's an
open.
open.
We're not going to judge
It's
you
an
or
open
anything.
conversation.
Let's go.
It's an open conversation. Come on.
Yeah, no, I think yeah. For me too, it's the small tests are useful for us to try stuff out or test out like theories and see how the game handles the theory or just spits those
For
out. Oh, go ahead, Freeze.
for example, next test we have a plan. It's public. With a lot of for the ancient clan, we are going to create a big settlement to try settlements with multiple clan, and we're gonna try this in Oceanside. I don't know if if Remnant do it, but yeah, we're gonna try that.
Yeah. How many people has agreed to do that so far?
Multiple clan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
it
good
depends.
similar with the ancient clans.
Yeah, all big ancient clans, I think.
Do you want us to siege you, or do you want to use it as a base to siege us?
We don't know for the moment.
Okay.
We will see.
No,
How about you
'cause-
just surrender?
Sorry? You want me to
How about you-
surrender?
Yeah, let's just
Save
surrender.
us
Let's
the
avoid
trouble.
bloodshed.
Just
Yeah.
I
kidding.
don't think we have the capacity to take all of the ancients in if you guys surrender. Sorry.
Don't worry, if you surrender to us, we have the capacity.
Yeah, we'll be good.
Yeah, we don't
That
have the
seems cool.
capacity to manage that many people. We'll just
I
kill
think
you.
I think we're gonna have a pretty big hen house, so you can probably sleep with the chickens.
No, but if you want us to attack you and not turtle, you should probably let us know, either or not. You know, it's up to you.
I think let it play out naturally, and
Zaid!
whatever happens happens, because unless it's an actual tournament, I feel like however each clan trying to force it close, the remnants are never aggressive, and every time that they are, it doesn't last too long. So I feel like if you guys want to, then go for it. But play it naturally, because if you try to play outside of your box too much, it may not end up being how either side wants to see it happen. You know what I mean?
Sure, sure. No, it's just some easy banter. Anyway, yeah, I'm pretty sure we get some like a full-on tour of the entire town at some point, I guess, as well.
Oh yeah, I'm sure someone will record it.
That sounds awesome. We should do a town review in the next podcast, or not the next one, but the one after that battle, or that, you know what I mean. Yeah.
Right.
All right, let's move on to the next point, which is trade. I think a few of you guys here really wanted to talk about trade. So here's what I prepped for that. You should be able to see the stream update in a few moments. It specifically does say in the on the Steam page, it says build an empire, build settlements and grow them from small hamlets into large bustling towns shared by dozens, if not hundreds of players engage in farming, hunting, husbandry and more to support the war effort. Trade with nearby player settlements to further optimize your economy. Design and build elaborate multi-level keeps, blah 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 blah. So what my clan specifically did during the big PvP test was we built all the way in the rear because we thought we weren't going to have any players, but we were wrong because a bunch of us got access, but that's neither here nor there. The main point was we got access to a stone mine and an iron mine right next to our town, and then across the river there was another town, and they had coal, and coal is like OP, very good. You just need like 10 coal, and you're good for like a day of just producing stuff. So we traded coal for iron. Is there anyone else who had like similar, just organically trade things just happening?
The ancients don't really trade, from what I've seen. Maybe somewhere else, but from what I've experienced, if someone needs something, if we can spare extra resources, we just give it to people. And so that way we're kind of keeping everyone else caught up. Um, we haven't really had a use for trade, at least from what I've seen. Like, we've had people who join the Discord from another clan. They're like, hey, do you guys have extra whatever? Like, for example, cabbages. We had, I want to say, like a whole cabinet or pantry of cabbages that were just sitting around that were bugged, that we couldn't use to eat because they were having that public glitch. But they could be turned into feed, and that's exactly what they needed. And we didn't really have a need for them, so we just gave them to the other clan that needed them. And we went out and gathered what we needed. So I've never really seen the ancients trade that much.
Yeah, and to build on that, like my guild is quite literally about producing and supplying, so we don't trade our production for whatever the others have. We quite literally we don't fight. We don't plan on PvP. We don't plan on joining crusades or anything. We quite literally just sit down, produce, and whenever a settlement or another allied clan wants something or needs something, we just give it to them. That's quite literally the
Yeah.
entire point of my group.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I mean, for me it was kind of fun because at least from the point of view, because the guys who were next to us, they weren't actually in a clan. They were just a bunch of random people who had gotten together and made like a 25-man town or something. So they had quite a substantial amount of people, but there was no like central government. It was just they had sort of walled in their mind. So we just asked, so if we give you this amount of iron, can we get this amount of coal? And that worked pretty well. But do you think we're going to see less trade and just more just because what you're explaining is technically like foxhole logi. It's not a trade-based game anymore. It's more about the faction instead of your town per se.
For the greater good, basically.
Yeah, yeah. So do you think the game is going to be more like that, or do you think that's because that's the way you play, as opposed to how you think the devs want the game to be like?
Me personally, I would say it trade will become a lot more widespread throughout the game, including the ancients, because it's just there will be a certain point where it won't be viable to constantly give the excess to other people as the war situation changes and settlements have to adapt basically. So trade will become, in my personal opinion, as a leader of a logistics guild, trade will become very important and very widespread.
It also is the factor of right now, the way that we're doing it is working because all of the ancients have a very good diplomatic stance towards each other. However, in the future, if drama happens, for example, a clan that would have given excess to another clan, if they don't have as good of a relationship as other clans, they may require something in return where, hey, we're not really friends with you. We're not going to just give you this stuff. If you want something from us, like the other clans get, then you're going to have to give something in return. We are on the same faction, but you shorted us or backstabbed us in the past, so we require some sort of back and forth instead of just a donation.
Yes.
I mean, I don't think drama is going to be the drive. It's more just all these goddamn randoms are just stealing my stuff or blah blah blah, or you feel like someone's abusing the system, and the way that the devs implemented the trade shop or whatever is so that you could sort of have either a town that you know people are watching 24/7, just like a capital or some sort of major town, where people just sort of bring all their stuff to trade instead of just it being because I mean it becomes a different beast when you have several thousand people in a network as opposed to 400 or 200, right? You can organize 400 people easily, and you can even have some sort of overview of what's needed where. But when you get to those thousands of people, you need to have an automated system that just handles itself.
Well, it's also not just the trade and logistics side of things. I'm thinking where people may not have a good diplomatic relationship with each other. I'm more thinking, for example, I can foresee in the future a clan is under attack and another clan that they call on definitely has the resources or the military troop available to send their way, and they don't. Right, you call, the beacon's lit, right? Gondor calls for aid and no one comes to their aid. Well, now Gondor is going to be pissed and be like, well, now that we're in a stable position, you want to take 2,000 lumber from us and ask for a donation, and you couldn't even come defend us, last month or whatever. So no, we're not going to do that. If you want this 2,000 lumber, then we require some sort of compensation for it. We're not just going to give it to you. Whereas if you defended us before, we had a good diplomatic relationship. We'd have no reason to ask for something in return because we had excess lumber. So before we would have just given it to you, whereas now we're not as friendly as we would have been.
Yeah, so it's like clan over faction as opposed to faction over
Right.
clan. Yeah.
Right. And that is just a mindset that cannot be avoided, right? Someone's at some point is going to feel like they got shorted, or clan is not going to be friends with another clan, even though they're on the same faction. So that will in turn affect and sway how, the balance of things is going to work. Whereas right now, pretty much, I don't think any ancient clan has a problem with anyone in the faction. There's no real drama going on right now, so everyone's sort of like, yeah, you need this, then go ahead and take it. We don't need it.
Yeah, cool. That's good to hear. So
Ancients. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, I'm talking a lot, Mike. You can go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, Ancients were fairly close to having inter-clan drama, specifically with my guild, and I'm not gonna name it just for the sake of keeping it civil here, but we were able to avoid it. Like, me and the other leader were very civil about it. We understood each other's sides, and were able to avoid any drama and gaslighting it into a bigger problem. So, like, I feel like Ancients, just for now at least, have that ability with the close diplomacy that we possess within the faction to be able to properly communicate with each other and avoid general drama. And that kind of gives us the edge in the game right now.
That there's no drama in the ancients.
Yes, and also just like our ability to so far avoid drama, even like in cases where it would have been pretty much a small issue pumped up into a larger one. So
But
just in general, like having a diplomacy within the faction, with all the clans being able to communicate with each other and uh, listen to each other with a sense of respect and ability to try and figure out a better way to handle everything. Like, we have that. I can't speak for remnants. Like, I'm not saying you guys don't or do. I'm just saying that's the case for ancients, at least in my experience. And it definitely is a very positive thing within the Anvil Empire's gameplay, even though unintentional.
yeah, I mean, clans come and go sometimes, as we've seen this year. But I think for the remnants, there's doesn't seem to be any drama. But I do also hope that ancients don't try to go out of their way to exacerbate or try to put the looking glass on small stuff and try to blow it out of proportions. And
You
also,
mean within ancients, or are you talking about like gaslighting
no,
remnants into drama?
yeah, the latter. Um,
Okay.
and the same thing goes for accusations of ghosting, which seems to be annoyingly taken very lightly internally. It seems you guys don't really mind people throwing those accusations out.
Ghosting? Oh, you mean like, what do you mean? Because ghosting, as far as I understand, is when a streamer is streaming something and do you have someone sniping them
That's
for like
stream
intel?
sniping. No, ghosting is when you switch sides and you look at what the enemy's doing and you tell your
I
side.
mean, that
Sorry,
would
what you're talking about?
be,
Alt
you
Yeah,
text.
can't
it's
do that right
secret.
now because you're locked to a faction for the war, are you
It
not?
it is possible. We actually experienced a bug where one of my guys had his bed just reset, and when he tried to relog back in, he could choose remnants, and he could basically see all of the towns that remnants had. It was like on the very last day, and we did not use any of this information. We kept it to ourselves because we don't do PvP, so that was basically useless information for us. And then we didn't want to reveal anything.
I don't know who's accusing other people of ghosting, but I think for either side to accuse either side of that is a very big blowing it out. I agree with you on that, Wicca. That is ridiculous. I understand that there can be alts, but unless you have proof of that, like for example in Ranger's case, you shouldn't be calling anyone out for something like that because that's such a big accusation. Anyone who does it, of course, is a massive nerd, and I don't think they should have access to the game. But to say that because X happened, then X must have happened without any sort of proof or logical reasoning is toxic in my opinion. I don't think that's a cool thing.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad you said that. Okay, well, I think trade is a finished slide. We're going to move on to the next one, which is logistics, which is interesting, I think. I have a lot of thoughts on the matter. It's actually one of the specific things written on their Steam page, which is medieval logistics, establish supply camps and logistic lines to keep player armies well fed, armed, and rested. Battles are won not only through strength of arms, but also require a strong economy and supply chain. Build siege camps in preparation for large-scale assaults on enemy strongholds. Construct equipment like siege ladders and battering rams to breach fortified walls and keeps. So, what's your guys' experience with Logi in this game and other games?
Funny you ask that. I think I already mentioned my clan, or as I like to say, guild, is specifically logistics oriented, and I have played Foxhole personally. Not a lot, of course. There's definitely people in this very voice chat that have far more hours than I do. But I have had my fair share of logistics in Foxhole, and I personally find that Anvil does it a lot better in the sense that you feel the sense of pride and accomplishment trademark a lot more in Anvil compared to Foxhole.
There's more weight or something.
No, not necessarily. So it's a very complex topic, and there are a lot of conflicting opinions on this. So this is mine as a leader of a very specifically logistics-oriented guild.
This is your hot take.
But yes, so um, here's the thing that I dislike about Foxhole Logi. It's first of all, basically just go to location A, hammer this resource, fill your truck, go to location B, click a button, and wait for a timer. And after you do that, depending on how you then proceed with whatever resources you refine, you're very likely not going to see them in action. So either you'll just put them in a public place where other people can use them, or depending on if you're in a clan or not, you will use them, and then you won't feel the same sense of accomplishment that the stuff you did actually mattered and it actually contributed, you know? While in Anvil, it is completely different. You most of the logistics you do in Anvil genuinely feels like the stuff you do matters. So, for example, farming, you quite literally run out of food very fast if you don't produce it constantly, because food is very important. It's a mechanic in the game that requires you to constantly upkeep your hunger to be able to a perform better, stay alive longer, fight better, do better tasks, just in general increase your efficiency as a player character. So keeping food on the table is a very important task. And how do you do that? You have multiple ways. You can send people out foraging for berries. You can have people grow food, which is a very annoying process right now, but I'm not going to go too deep into it because it's the next topic I see on the list, so I'm not going to steal the time from that. Um, which, like I said, is a very annoying process. And then once you do that, or you can hunt as well, by the way. And once you have the raw food, you need to have cooks prepare that, cook it, make sure it doesn't burn, and put it in a place where people can just freely come and pick it up. Now, you will constantly feel that you are contributing because you will be eating the food that you grow and cook, because you have to do that. The game simply encourages that, and you will also see other people come up and take the food that you're constantly making and cooking and whatever, and eat that. And that's just one example of you clearly seeing that the stuff you do does matter and it benefits the settlement. You have miners who go mine wood, sorry, not wood, stone, coal, iron, and all of that is very important because stone is required to upgrade the settlement. So if you bring stone and then you log off and you log back on and you see, for example, the town hall is now tier 3, the stone you mined was actually used and to improve the settlement. You bring coal, the coal is a far better fuel to burn, and the people that cook or smelt or forge or whatever can do it without interruptions and having to go and bring more fuel into the ovens or whatever. And iron miners, iron is a very important resource. That's the source of armor and tools and weapons, and those will constantly have to be produced because they are the next tier of tools that you use as a settlement. And then you have people that do a bit more of a like the more mindless tasks, like for example chopping wood. Again, you just go to a tree, you chop it. It can be as a bit mindless as it is in Foxhole. It does have some depth to it.
Mike, are you reading from a list?
No, I'm quite literally just talking from the top of my head.
All right. It just
If I'm
sounded like
talking,
you had a checkpoint list in front of you.
no, here's the thing. I'm passionate about Logi, and I'm just talking about
right.
what I'm passionate about. If I'm talking too much, please feel free to interrupt me.
Yeah, I just interrupted you.
Yeah, no worries.
So what about ships and boats? Have you had any thoughts about that?
Yes, so last test we actually did what we called a Grand Caravan. One of our friend clans set up a partisan settlement deep in your Buckethead territory, but they set it up in a place where they didn't have any resources. So what we did is we basically gathered our entire settlement and caravanned to the ocean shore, loaded up boats, and went deep into your territory. So boats and caravans are a very viable way to transport goods, in my opinion. They do need some work. Better boats, better caravans, stuff like that. But overall, I very much enjoyed it. It made the experience very enjoyable.
Okay. And what about the battles you guys fought? How hard was it to organize the, call it the supply base or the spawn base or something? Was it tricky or was it easy because there was one guy in charge and everyone just sort of fell in line and everyone sort of knew their jobs or whatever?
I can speak
yeah.
on that just because I
Yes,
know the
so
art doesn't really go after that, and there really wasn't any combat. So if you're asking this question, you're opening up the previous major test where actual combat happened. So is that something you're willing to talk a few minutes on? Well, because it can carry over. I can tell you how the general, how the ancient clan or faction carries itself, and this is the general, pretty much how it's going overall. So I guess it's not specifically about the major test, but basically, we do get together all the major clans and we talk, and we go over what we want to do for that crusade. And we have a whole Discord set up for it where we have a clan leader chat and only leaders and officers can see it. And we have a whole meeting just kind of like this one. The last major test, we had a whole hour. It's probably maybe shorter or longer in the future, but we see what everyone is open to. And whatever we decide, we put it to a vote. And that is what we're going to do. And that's how we organize ourselves. So we have the Zerg mentality of everyone has to do their part, and if everyone does their part, then it's going to make it very easy for everyone to do their part, basically, right? Because you don't have to carry anybody because everyone knows what they're doing. So that in that sense, it's very easy for us to do it that way because we all listen to each other and we all expect everyone to do what their role is said.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good system. You guys are
Yeah.
good at organizing. And
If
and Freeze, is your clan part of that
Yeah.
Discord as well?
Yeah, we do part of this Discord. This meeting, we do the first Ancients meeting, the last major test, and it worked very well with a big crusade. But I think we will do big things with all this clan. We can do big things.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Anyone else have any comments on Logi or the details around those things?
I could go on, but I'd rather we keep going and skip my comments.
Yeah.
Just a small thing, I guess.
Sorry, Mike.
Something.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. I no problem.
Oh, no.
Just a small thing too from my side, like from an outside perspective. Again, I'm not a Logi person. I don't do that at all. But I did have to do it for this test, and just like how he was saying, how I think there's more weight to what you do, or you feel it better, I should say. You feel like what you're doing contributes. You see way more praise for your logistics and cooks and stuff like that in this game than I've seen in any other game. As far as like how PvP people treat their support players, it's kind of like the difference between a Battlefield support player versus an Overwatch or a League of Legends support. Whereas in Battlefield, you can throw an ammo pack and in the middle of 10 people and nobody's going to notice you, probably. Whereas in Overwatch or League, if you have a good support, your team is going to know that. If you have a bad support, everyone's going to know that. And that's how I feel like in Anvil it is. If you have a good logistics team and they're doing everything, you have good cooks, and you can always rely on X clan to bring food or whatever, people are going to notice that. And if you don't have a farmer overnight, tending to the crops and whatnot, when everyone wakes up in the morning, you're not going to have any food for the fights. And I know that firsthand because, like I said, I've had to do logistics. So I've spent, a few hours overnight farming crops and getting everything stored for people. Because if I didn't, then we wouldn't have any food. So I feel like logistics, just like he was saying, to cut it here, is you're going to see a lot more praise for it. And I feel like the game population is going to be a lot more stable because logistics people want to stay and they want to do this because they actually get a reward for it.
And just
Yeah.
one tiny detail that I'd like
Oh
to
yeah,
add.
sure, Mike. Go ahead, Mike.
Just one tiny small thing.
No,
I
you
don't
go.
have to if you don't want to. By the way, like it's
Come
your
on, Mike.
podcast.
You're already taking the time. Go ahead and do it.
No, the only thing I want to say is that Logi in this game is a lot more fun to do because it's not about clicking a button and waiting for a timer. There is depth to it, which in certain aspects, and it's a lot more fun to do in this game, which makes it a lot more enjoyable to do. In addition to feeling that what you do matters.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, for me personally, it's one of the things, and no offense to the Foxhole players, but one of the impressions I got from Foxhole is it's 40% Logi and 60% combat. But this game feels like 90% Logi, 10% combat. At least from the tests that I've had, because everyone has to do Logi to just get started. You can't just show up and not do Logi because everyone is naked.
It could be a problem.
Depends what your role is, really. Like I sort of been maining scout, and I'll scout for sort of OG and get a sort of grip on all the enemy positions and all that. But I'll just as soon as the test starts, I'll just run by myself to the other side of the map, gather twigs and flint and berries and whatnot, kill rabbits and chickens along the way to like diversify your diet or whatever, so you can keep your health up. And it's actually really easy to get quite deep into enemy territory to do that. Set up a settlement and then just go out. You don't really need to. You don't really need to do much other than like gather stuff. I'll hunt like like other Logi players, like like with like a flint knife, because they don't tend to carry anything on them like at the start. So for like that gameplay, the gameplay loop I play anyway, I just rely on like the most basic berries and meat and flint and berry bushes to to make knives, like a little settlement, and nothing really gets in the way of getting about. Like, you can still eat on the move, rarely actually have to
But
return home.
Herbert, wouldn't you say that it's not 60 or 40% of your clan scouting at the start of the game?
Oh, no, it's just me.
Right. Well, that was my point.
Right.
Anyway, Dark Sun, you just joined us, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
And what got you into Anvil Empires?
Anvil Empires. I just saw a random, like a random article on my Chrome recommended actually. It said Foxhole developers making a new thing, and then I just kind of started following it from there.
Oh, so Google made you play. Got it.
Google makes me do a lot of things.
All right. Well, I think just personally, I think Logi has a much bigger weight in this game than other games I've played, and also I really like the fact that there's like recipes in every single type of specialization. Like with the wood, don't chop the wood that's like crappy, or sorry, not crappy, young. Don't there's specific types of wood that has different yields, and then there's always replant the seed, and then where do you plant it, because you can use it in a defensive manner, and that's just logging. And then logging, you have like manually using the sawbuck, or you have a powered sawmill either by water or by donkey, which just adds so much depth. And then you have the cooking, which is multiple different types of cooking apparatuses. You got fuel differences, you got recipes. I mean, then let's not even go into the blacksmithing. And then all of these things, it's fun. These are crafting gameplay stuff that's fun in itself. It's a game in itself. You get to actually use all that stuff and go to war. That's fun. That's a lot of fun. That's a whole bucket of fun. Or maybe more. It's like a pool. It's a pool of fun, Or how big would you say the body of water is?
Ocean.
It's an
Like
ocean. Oh, damn.
Maybe like a 1 gallon bottle.
A gallon of bottle. Yeah, okay. No, yeah. So I think Logi is going to be this game's big strength, because the combat. No offense, combat is great. Like the shield wall and the sieging, that stuff is going to be amazing too. But just the Logi stuff so far just gives me so much hope for this game.
There's also only so much you can do when everyone's locked to swords and bows.
Of course. But like, imagine the ships, right? When we actually do get ships with not only combat capability, but like you have wind, you have sails. Are we going to be able to still navigate just using M, which is kind of cheating? So you have a GPS in the Middle Ages. Sure, okay, fine. I would love some sort of, navigational minigame too. That would be really cool. But I'm not going to I'm not gonna go overboard. Anyway, I think Logi's got its fair share. I don't know. You guys done? I mean, except for Mike, is everyone here done talking about Logi?
All good.
All right,
Yeah.
cool. Let me just double check if the chat. Milky Way's just talking crap. Okay, cool. So we're gonna move over to farming. I was given permission by Soldor, First of the Lore, to post this image. Farming is the only thing in this game for me which is a bitch, because I really hate the 33% chance of getting the seeds back,
Same.
and also the 15-minute timer on the water is also kind of bullshit. It should be completely automated with irrigation, in my opinion. I don't know what do you guys think?
I feel like some people would have an issue with that. I don't personally. I feel like at some point, if not something that you would immediately have access to, maybe tier 3 town hall unlocks the ability to get that technology. But I feel like at some point that the farmers should have some sort of automated water system, because as it stands right now, to supply a group of 20 some people for a crusade, I had to spend like several hours overnight just farming and doing absolutely nothing else.
Yep.
Which is just too much in my opinion.
I had the same thing. I had to spend all night watering, gathering more, like I did like the whole loop. So I had like a seed loop that I called it. I just went from seed point to seed point to seed point, back to base, water, and then made more. I just had this whole system, and it was a lot of work, and it didn't feel very rewarding to only be able to build like an X amount of bread or not even that. It just wasn't worth it, in my opinion.
There was definitely a reward, which was not starving, which shouldn't be a reward of it in and of itself. But the pain in the ass that it was heavily outweighed any sort of utility that you got out of it.
Yeah. Let me just double check who suggested this topic. Some guy named S. He left the server. Never mind. Wait, did I? Maybe I posted it just because I was interested in it. Never mind then. No, it's.
Are you ass?
I guess I am biased. No, it was probably me. So yeah, personally, like my main point of contention with this thing is just there's no automation, and I think the yields are too small, and I think the seeds not coming back is a big issue. And yeah, I just want to see more depth to this gameplay, specifically automation, but also like it should be possible to have, like, for example, if you have a settlement right next to the river, you don't need to have an automated watering system because you're sitting right next to the water, right? Or a lake for that matter.
Like Minecraft?
Yes.
Seasonal flooding would be like
Oh my God,
beautiful, man.
But also, and this is another point, is it would create the necessity to build large aqueducts that goes into land, a bigger thing, because then you can also not only have specific growth types that are like relegated to certain areas that are like they can't grow anywhere else. That give you like maybe like hops can only be grown inland at certain altitudes or some stupid stuff. Where you could say, all right, so you want to have beer, which we might see in the game, I'm assuming, which can give you like a big boost during battle. You can only grow that at certain areas, so you need to have like a beer base, right, that exports beer to your entire faction.
Yeah, I'd love to see stuff like that because you get more in incentive in trade if you had like sort of regionally available things like perhaps a certain type of wood that gives items you make with it better durability or whatever only can grow in a certain type of like soil or whatever, and then you get you both get a resource scarcity thing, a thing to compete over for like the best bits of land are the best things that get produced there, and also a reason to trade, like you'll need to send people over that way or whatever if you want to produce the best swords, send someone to the best iron, send someone to the best wood, and use your best stuff to trade for that, innit?
If I may, a bunch of people have been suggesting a lot of interesting ideas for farming, such as a seeding stage for the crops, where if you harvest it in that stage, you get a lot of seeds, but you don't get the actual crop, which is a very cool in-depth way of making it making the farming more in depth and
Yeah,
making it a lot more viable.
Yeah, there's also, so specifically in the Middle Ages, there were multiple types of crops. So you had emmer. I learned this from the Manor Lords Discord, by the way, which is another game. But so you had emmer, which was the low yield type, and then you had barley, which had a much bigger yield. And then obviously in modern day America and Europe, you have gene modified or like bred specific types of crop types that have a much higher yield per harvest for a much lower requirement of the soil, as far as I know. Not to mention the pesticides and the specific types of what's it called? You put the shit and the
Fertilizer?
Yes.
Fertilizer.
Thank you. Thank you.
Industrial fertilizer.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think you have like ammonia. No, not ammonia. There's like nitrogen. Yeah, nitrogen. Just pure nitrogen and stuff like that. Like there's just abundances of it. Coke, I think too. But anyway, yeah. The point is, yeah, I agree. Like it would be cool to have multiple types so you could say. You could start like a seed, so you trade seeds, right? So you get, oh, this seed is like this, right? So you could do, because I think there's a game in Rust where you can like modify your own crops, I think as well.
Yep.
And it would be cool to do something like this in this game where you say you have the base crop, and then you sort of let's say you have a yield, right, and the seed gives you, like, let's say a drop of 150% or some percentage, but one of them is like a super seed or some sort of modified one. It's like a chance that has a higher yield either of the actual crop or much more seeds or other stuff. That stuff would be really interesting.
We call it a god clone invest.
Yeah, man. I mean, they are having horse breeding, so they could extend that sort of stuff to like crop cultivation and making cultivars or whatever. If you can grow like lemons and oranges and limes, like they're not the original citrus fruits or whatever. They're all like multi-generational crossbreeds of a couple of different species. It'd be cool to see that in Anvil.
Yeah, I mean, people are going to nerd over it. Like, being a farmer is the most boring thing to do right now. But if they add these features and make them rare, there's rarities, and then there's which areas do you want to go to. So there's either automated farming or you have to build like a big aqueduct that brings the water in. All these considerations, like, just not to mention just putting certain crops in certain areas and certain crops in other areas, you can't like mix and mash. You have to go over there and trade for it and then bring it back, like, actually physically. And then it's not just, oh yeah, I have 100 seeds. It's more like you have one seed, so you got to get that one seed to 300 seeds, right? It's about, like, that's what farming is. But right now it just feels like I don't know what to call it, whack-a-mole, like a 3-hour whack-a-mole or something, where you're just there to put water on it. I don't know.
It feels like Foxhole M subs, and it's really annoying.
Yes, definitely.
All right, I think we've talked enough about farming. Anyone else got any big ideas about farming, or do you want to move on?
I'm just
I'm
saying,
still.
if we're
Let's
talking
move.
about Rust, we should just add the hemp plant in.
Oh yeah, what's hemp used for?
Nothing.
Hemp was used for
Clothes.
loads. Flax.
I know.
Yeah,
It was like it was used for the cloth and rope and stuff, but it would just be funny.
So you could hang yourself.
Yeah.
Just kidding. You're already hung. But all right. Anyway, terrible jokes. That's why I made the sound effects, because otherwise it wouldn't be funny. We're gonna move on to the next point, which is scouting. Specifically,
Yeah.
scouting versus alting. So obviously, alting is really bad. Everyone hates that. But is scouting easy or hard to do? How do you coordinate with other teams or the other clans in your faction? What you've spotted, like, communication wise?
I think
Assuming
it's just right. Good.
no, assuming you don't have Discord. Like, if you're a random player and you see a
Oh.
huge base, how do you tell your faction that?
Oh, you have to use the
Most
chat.
random players wouldn't. That's the
You
thing.
just kind of perish, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I just post all my screens in the OG Discord, and if they want to use them for the other crews or whatever, I'm sure they'll send them to other groups.
Are you the guy that found Ravenhill 4 this test?
Do what? Sorry.
Are you the guy that found Ravenhill 4? My town up in the on top of that river.
Possibly. I found a lot of towns.
That's in the deep in the ancient territory. No, I'm in the remnant territory.
Oh no. I was deep in ancient territory. I was playing remnants this time, so I was doing the opposite. I had a settlement at the very bottom of the map, sort of just by the border. One thing to point out is partisan highways, as we used to call them in Foxhole. The border region is actually really useful to just you can just get through all the way to the enemy backline obstructed. Like one of the things the devs should. I mean, they've been working out a lot of stuff with the borders, but and they are really nice. The seamless mechanism with them's like fantastic. Like I had to quit Foxhole because I couldn't. Like borders, just like they kept fucking up for me, man. But like Anvil, they're absolutely sweet, man. But yeah, like they need some sort of person blocker within those borders, like like the bears serve in the rest of the regions. They need those animals there. Otherwise, people are always going to use them to to circumvent getting about the map in it.
I have a question for OG. Are you guys going to play Remnants or Ancients on the big test on the 15th?
What is that? The upcoming one?
No, it's on the December.
Oh
Or
right.
the
I'm not too sure that that'll be put to a vote. I know we're playing Ancients for the next test. I think I'm going to be doing this big settlement thing with the other clans. But I can't speak for future movements within OG.
So what do you think about
they vote.
what do you think about this concept? Like, so let's say that I want to know where all the major ancient bases are for the big PvP test, right? And instead of actually alting, I just take my entire clan over for one test, and I just see where they build their bases, and then I go and switch back to the other faction next test.
The ancients tend to switch up where their bases is as far as
Yeah,
aware.
switch
There's some
earlier.
groups that pick the same spots, but I think the remnants tend to stick a bit
Yeah.
more.
So do you
from
think it's
experience.
morally correct to then switch sides and like know that information?
I mean, like even if you don't switch sides, like if you had a, like if you like go out, like you'll find where they are anyway. So you don't necessarily need to do that if you encounter them, previously or whatever. Like, you can probably expect the same group will be in that spot if they, they make a habit of it or whatever.
Because it's a test, I'm going to say yes. If you know that you have a clan on your side that is not a loyalist faction, then it is up to that clan to prevent as much information getting out as possible. Obviously, if you have a good location that you scouted out that you want to use, and asking you to move, well, we move, so you shouldn't move in the same. You shouldn't stay in the same place too. That's unfair for me to ask. What I'm saying is, because it's a test, we can't look at it from our perspective as a player, but more as a tester, because what OG is doing is not just they don't just have their members playing. OG is one of the only like major clans that has their players join to mostly test out features and provide feedback and sort of be that reliable source for the devs. Whereas something like War, we certainly have testers and people who are there for the experience and to make the game a better place, but we also have a lot of people who join just for combat. And that's the major difference here is we can't look at it from a secretive sort of thing where is it morally okay to join another faction going back and forth? I would say yes, especially with OG, because they want to see what both sides look like. They want to see where certain aspects are on the map, like resources and location, sort of figure out which clan, how they act on each side. They're trying to flesh out what the game is going to be like. And I feel like that's what the devs want is if people were supposed to stay on one side, then the devs would have made it that way. Whereas as soon as you join the test and you choose a faction, then you're stuck on that. They wouldn't allow us to have the freedom of switching back in between each test. So I think like we're supposed to do that. We're meant to do that. It's an oddity that we're not doing that. It's not an oddity that we are having people switching back and forth. You know what I mean?
Well, I disagree. I think it becoming faction loyalist is fairly normal to any game that you have a
It
preferred
is.
faction.
Outside of a testing environment, I would agree. In a testing environment, I feel like there has to be a back and
I agree
forth.
with Saul. I agree with Saul. It's not a dynamic we have in a lot of games, but in Foxhole, the game of Siege Camp, we don't have a lot of people just stay in one side. They try wardens, they try colonials, and I think it will be the same thing in this game. And for the test,
Was OG in the big ancient meeting?
They were.
yeah.
Right.
They had a major part in that. Yeah.
Yeah. It that sounds kind of iffy to me, honestly.
I get it. Trust me, I do. And I've had people come to me and say, why are we allowing OG to do this and putting them in the Discord? And I obviously won't say names, but the reason is I can trust OG and I trust Saul enough to. Plus, we have it set up securely, right? Ancient Hub, you can't get in as an ancient unless you verify. We have a bot where you type verify, it gives you a code. You have to type in that code in the local chat to prove that it's you, and you also have to have the current test build number showing in the top right-hand corner of the screen. If you can't meet all of those requirements as an ancient, then you're not getting the ancient role, which means you won't be able to see everything.
But that's not what we're talking about.
No, I get that, but I feel like we're secure in that aspect. If you guys aren't secure on that side, then as in a testing environment, that's as much as you can do. I'm not going to limit who we interact with simply because they're doing what the test is meant to do, and that's test either side however they see fit and provide that feedback to the devs.
I know, but like, it also goes without saying, like, if everyone who were remnant switched to ancient, you guys wouldn't find anyone on the 15th, for example.
I don't know if that's possible because population. I think if you have a certain number of people join one side, it gets locked, does it not?
So then you would be stuck playing remnant instead.
Possibly, I guess. I don't know, but we've never had that happen before. I don't feel like we'd have enough remnants joining the ancients for that to be possible.
No, but that's my point, is that you don't really, that's not an issue because it's not an issue in itself. And I think this whole point was sort of brought up with the concept of, do you scout out the enemy? Do you play it fair? Or do you do alting, or do you switch sides to see where they spawn? And
I don't
think you're no. But like as a faction, as ancients are a faction, it seems like OG is part of that faction.
I guess, but they haven't provided it to us. So if they do have that information, they're keeping it to themselves fairly. When we had the major Ancient Crusade in the last test, the only information that I saw as far as maps go are the actual things that they scouted, and they had quite a bit scouted. It wasn't like, like when you see people wall hack in Minecraft and they go and mine diamonds, you can see there's an obvious line that they took to get to that vein of diamonds. When I saw OG's maps, they scouted a lot of different areas, and
oh god, yeah. If you've seen any of my ones, man, there's so many that just like I've gone and just not I've gone and had like 2 hours where I'm just like worming around trying to find anything, and nothing. Like I love the size of the map. It's cool. Like one thing that did pop up last test actually was so the little flags that appear on the map that represent things. The one for the homesteads is glitched at the moment, so you can have the map up while you're moving in it. And like if you do that, you can actually spot settlements by the homestead flags. They appear on the map like way out of your vision. So that definitely needs to be corrected. I think I've reported it on the bug thing though.
I think I also had like where if you switch regions or die or something like that, you lose all the stuff you scouted.
Yeah.
That's annoying. But I think for me personally, like in this kind of game, you're trying to look for, because you want to trust that you're going to have a fair game. Otherwise, you don't really want to give it your all. And I think my impression of OG switching sides, it sounds benign on the surface, but for me personally, it just sounds like an excuse to look at where the enemy's going to spawn and what they're going to do.
Well, I mean, we're in the very, very, very earliest sort of stages of the map being built and testing and whatnot. Everything is subject to change and pretty much very, very likely to. So I wouldn't really worry about anything like that. Like everyone in the clans, we're just sort of here to test or whatever. We're all passionate about the game. And like we're also like trying to not get into that factionalism, like with Foxhole, when like asymmetry was introduced, for example, like everything became all toxic, and you saw a lot more factionalism then. And I think a lot of us are ex Foxhole players. Like I play with people that they were colonials, and we've all like had one another over in combat all like however many times before. And yeah, it's refreshing to play with old people like that and be on the same side for once. But yeah, I know. I think we're all here more for the experience than just to get bogged down. We're not here for gamer mode. We're sort of tester mode, like more so. I'd say.
No, because the impression I'm getting is, your name is Hereward the Baked, but your prefix says OG, right? So you were a representative of that clan, if I understood correctly. And there's another player in your clan, I think his name is Brandoid, who my impression of him was that he led the crusade on the first or the second day, when you guys were trying to cross the river, for example. And he had a lot of quite concerning comments to bring up during that, or afterwards on the Discord, which I sort of told him that it's not cool to accuse the other side of ghosting or alting, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know why he used the Anvil public Discord server to sort of dry his dirty laundry or whatever. I mean, or just accuse an entire faction of ghosting without having any proof. But he also wore the OG tag, and I'm assuming he's a pretty high leader of that clan. And so my sort of thought when I see you guys switch sides and I see you guys in the game on our side is, you accuse the enemy of what you yourself is doing. That's my impression of that. So I lose a lot of trust when I see comments like that and actions like that from you guys, and it doesn't really build trust that I'm playing against a foe that's like playing it fair. I think there should be some certain metrics, because I want to have a good game. I want to test the game out, but I also want to know that the enemy's playing the game fairly, so that when I sort of give the devs my true, honest to God impression of the game, it's not something that's been underhanded or falsified in the way that it was executed because someone thought that the game's limitations doesn't count for them, and that they're going to go above or beyond. Like this. Do you want war? Do you want total war? Just do everything. There's no hindrance. There's no limitations to how far you can go. But it's a testing phase, right? But I don't get that impression from Brandoid. What you're saying is not the same words that are coming from him.
I'm honestly, I'm not exactly too sure. As I said, I only played the first day of the last test, so I'm not actually too sure about whatever drama is going on. But that's definitely not the impression that Brandoid's ever given me. Like he's like one of the most passionate dudes in this community. Like about like fair play and like just like figuring out the game. I really don't think he's got any malice or anything behind him.
I agree. I've known him for a while, and I think if there's a discrepancy with you know how the situation is being played, I feel like that should be addressed directly to him or give him a chance to speak, because I don't think this is going to be productive at all.
Yeah. Like I don't think it's fair without like him able to sort of represent himself. For it's just some drama. I don't know, like you wear the same tags as people, and like just because I've got the same tag as someone else, I'm not responsible for their actions, and I'm just an individual here, innit? Although I can bring this up or whatever, yeah. But like he's a cool dude, isn't it? I'm sure he'd enjoy being on this actually. If you wanted to get in touch with him or whatever. Yeah, I'll float that to him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming, like in terms of our claim system in the remnants, we probably can't use the claims we used during this test because of this, which is kind of annoying. And you guys just say it's all fun and games, or in the spirit of testing, or the fact that you don't want to have a factionalism because that's kind of sucked when you were playing Foxhole. You also have to, think of your ideological choices. They affect people who are also playing the game, and so in this case, it does affect a lot of people. But whatever, if you guys don't want to talk about this, then we can move on to the next point.
I think OG just want to try to build on different territory and have a chance to like see the other sides,
Yeah. I mean, when pagans unlock, we'll go pagans and remnants and ancients in it. But we're just there to play the game as a clan in it. I mean, like I remember when I started Foxhole, I was a neutral back then, but there is another problem with people that like come into the game that don't want to choose a faction when people that are part of factions and like hardcore faction loyalists or whatever. They do have that attitude towards neutral players, and there is all that suspicion and whatnot. Anyway, it comes to the territory, innit? Because like how do you know that someone isn't an alt or whatever? But I don't know. Like hopefully we'll see a lot less of that with like the sort of like the three faction thing popping up. And like we don't actually know how the factions are going to specify, like what they're going to have that's special that stands out against the others or whatever in terms of equipment and stuff they can build and in territory properly. Just on account of how early it is right now. So I don't know, everything's kind of symmetrical right now, and yeah, like there's not really that much to a faction to really pit one against the other, like in my own eyes right now. Anyway,
Wouldn't it be more fair if you guys picked a faction and stayed there for the 3 small tests and the big one, and then switched? Because of all the prep and stuff that's done ahead of time.
I think they weren't even. I certainly won't think about it. But the Ancients clan or faction as a whole, I don't think any of us have ever really used a minor test for a definitive. This is what we're going to do the next test. I wasn't even thinking about that until I realized you guys as remnants are doing that. In fact, I don't think war has ever based in the same area twice. And I'm not saying that it's unfair that you guys are or whatever. I definitely get where you're coming from, but expecting people to not, to test a certain way because you guys are thinking of it as a play test for a war instead of a play test for how the game works is an entirely different conversation. And I just don't.
Well, this is
I get where you're
scouting versus alting, so I mean, it is kind of the point of
well,
this
I get
topic.
sure, but that's as deep as we're going. That's a big thing. When I'm thinking scouting versus alting, scouting, you're going in and looking for shit intentionally that you don't know. Alting is you are purposefully getting on an alt or whatever to relay the exact information that you see to the other clan in real time.
yeah,
Nobody's expecting you guys to base or do the exact same thing as you did the last test. That's just something that you guys are doing. In fact, I don't think anyone has even made that connection yet until you brought it up.
Well,
So,
it sounds.
I notice what clans go in the same places when I'm scouting, because like IG, I can't remember what the place is called, or even if it has a name, but and a lot of people choose the same settlement names as well. So it's like when that pops up on my map, it's like, oh, I know they're probably there because they choose that settlement name all the time or whatever in it. Like the other people remember the names of the clans. I just ping them. But yeah, nah, like Soul Raven was saying though, like alting versus scouting, that is actually quite an important issue to bring up. There is something that I have noticed. There was a bit of an improvement towards it, like against like stream sniping or whatever in the settlement icons and the way that they don't clutter up the map. It's only the 10 most populous ones that do show up now, something that alts can use though, and that will always cause dramas. Alt accusations. It was a big thing that stopped in Foxhole, stopped people setting up partisan bases in it, because like way back in the day before the cross faction chat was lost. I know they got it back now, but like the amount of times we'd have a base pop up on map and it'd get sprung, and someone would go ha 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 ha, my ult saw ya, or something like that. Sometimes people are saying that to wind you up, but sometimes it might be correct or whatever, and they have just had it. You spent 2 hours getting into their backline with a CB or whatever, built up a base, but before you've got AI or built up walls or whatever. You get rumbled by a bunch of dudes with HEs or whatever. You know, the only way that can ever be mitigated is by the icons, having the option to not show them on map, just so that you can get rid of that accusation. And that's one of the things that devs probably need to do to avoid all these alting dramas or whatever, because people are going to want to make raiding camps or whatever. Like my playstyle could be quashed by just someone looking on map, seeing where my little one-man settlement is, and bringing a bunch of torches there while I'm off scouting, and I just use that for my respawn in the back line, innit? So that like the option to not show your stuff on map, like, will always be a really good choice, because then someone, if someone makes that accusation, then you can go, well, actually, like, you should have just, gone in incognito mode. It doesn't show up to your own faction, so that someone, logging into an ult or whatever, they don't just press M and they can see way on the other side of the map. Oh, there's one little, there's one like icon in our territory. And then everyone goes there and swarms on it. There's always going to be accusations based around that. So, like, having an incognito mode, for when you first setting up your base and you choose, when you show to map, if you do, like, that would definitely be a really good way to mitigate this sort of drama causing effect on players.
I've got a question just real quick, just because this is a way bigger conversation than I thought it would be, because I've been busy with work recently, so I haven't really been paying attention to the Discord except very early early hours in the morning. Is this a big discussion debate right now? Like, are a lot of people talking about alting? Because I have, at least in the war Discord, that's basically not a conversation at all. We've never really had that discussion.
I think it pops up quite a lot in the Anvil forums or whatever, or the Discord. I mean, but I think that a lot of the Foxhole community obviously has come over to Anvil, and because it was such an issue there for so long, and it is the studio's previous game, and a lot of people do feel or did feel like they weren't heard in Foxhole with like ulting or whatever. So, and people who got altered on a lot tend to be like quite bitter against the experiences they've had or whatever. So I think it's something that sticks with people, that they don't want to experience in this game, and they know how badly it could affect you in Foxhole, because very, very little work from like a malicious player or whatever could undo like hours and hours of other people's that's your time, innit? You could have done something else.
Right.
It's all gone to waste. So, like, I think that's probably why it's such a concern within the community.
Oh no, I get why it's a concern. I just didn't know it was a concern, if that makes sense.
Well, for me personally, I know specifically the person we left, Neo and Ranger. He was very much a total war kind of guy, where he didn't have any moral compass. He just, anything goes. So
Right.
alting, having a bunch of bots, like, the sky's the limit. And so I just didn't want to play with that guy. I didn't want to play with his clan. I didn't want to be associated with him. And the entire sort of Remnant faction did a lot of cleanup to sort of get that stuff sorted. We had a lot of people, specifically from the EL clan now. They used to be in Neo, but they all left. And Sir Medieval made a video about that, and that was sort of our way of saying, because we still have channels up in our
Oh yeah.
faction.
No, you don't have to preach to me. Trust me, dude. I've known how much Ranger was a douche for. I was tracking him since the beginning of the year, before anyone even, because someone from a previous game. Yeah, so someone from a previous game brought him up, and I was like, that's weird. So I have a list where Ranger is not the only person on, where if I see someone doing some shady stuff in their past lives and other games, then I make sure that I know who they are, because if they ever want to join war, I want to make sure that we're not letting in scumbags like Ranger. So ever since, I want to say, like February of 2023, I've been watching what he was doing closely, and as time went on, that was the perfect time for me to release that album, the Injure album. And luckily, also, Sir Medieval made that video, which really sort of brought it to the limelight. So that combined with everybody else being aware of what was going on was great, because then Ranger fell, and we still have to worry about him. I'm sure he's still around. I mean, we may even have a few alts in our clan, or spread out throughout the ether, because he had like fucking 300 alts or some dumb shit like that. But yeah, no, 100%. I think that's a really scummy thing. I don't want any of that to be I don't want any of that from Foxhole to come over to Anvil, because that is just that could cause so many problems with how persistent this universe is and how long the wars are going to happen and how even past a war, right? You can't expect a clan from a previous war to not bring over drama from that war to the next war. That drama is going to last because it's an overall trust thing. You know what I mean? So I totally get where you're coming from.
Yeah, no. So my big issue was that I felt like we had this, like, let's call it our moment to really like wash ourselves off that, get rid of this dude, get some. I don't know. Remnants had a really bad name, but I felt like after we got rid of him as a community, we were done with that, and then it really hurt on a personal level because of my involvement with that to see Brandoid then throwing these accusations towards our faction again. And it just seems kind of ironic that then OG then switches to our side, and can then see all our sort of plans per se. It just seems like I don't know. It's like anticlimactic, I suppose, because I was hoping like we were done with this, but then it just keeps creeping up, this accusation, and just sort of it just seems ironic in multiple ways.
I think one of the reason OG is switching faction back and forth is to like even the odds. So like the Buckheads is not gonna get over like driven over, and
like in the
That's not
Discord,
true.
so every time the test finishes or whatever, then we have the thing like what faction we want to go next test, and it's normally based on, it's meritocratic as well, like it's just democratic or whatever. Everyone's vote is the same in it. Like no one person chooses. It's just whichever icon has the the most clicks or whatever. So it's not like people put people put like their opinions and what they think we should go, and that might sway people or whatever. But like we don't have any sort of overarching agenda or whatever. We're just a bunch of dudes there out to play the game.
Yeah, I don't think they're doing it to balance the game, because then they would have picked a different side for the PvP test next.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that was my point. Is it? I wouldn't have had an issue if you guys swapped sides.
I think it's more this mega city for this next test or whatever. That's the reason for the switch back to ancients. I think we were planning on sticking remnant for another. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm pretty sure we were.
Yeah, no, it's my point is just I get the Super City is fun, but my impression is that you're probably going to stick Ancient for the Super City to test it out during the PvP test to see what it turns into during a larger playtest.
What are the structures remaining? Or?
No, because my impression is you probably want to do another one of these big crusades against the remnants, right? On the PvP test.
Well, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure the mega city is one test only because other groups want to do their own stuff.
Okay. Anyway,
at least that's gonna say for myself and my group. That we want to do our own thing.
I think in terms of like this, so it's just me personally. If I had a clan and I was switching sides, I would sort of take consideration into those things. But whatever. And also just as a whole, if you guys can tell your guys to stop throwing accusations at everyone in a public chat as well, it would be appreciated, because that shit just, if no one in your own faction sort of corrects that person and we have to sort of correct them, it just turns into drama, and it's not healthy, and it's not the way we want to do it.
Right? Oh yeah. I'm very anti-drama. Like
I'd correct that and say keep care of your own clan, not faction, because I will never tell a different clan how to manage their members. I'll keep track of my guys and make sure that they're not causing shit. But as someone, if they're in the faction but not in my clan, it's I'm not their keeper. So
I agree with that.
All right. Well, anyway, yeah, I don't think there's anything more to talk about scouting. So there's now room for any other business. And I think Raven, you wanted to talk about some combat stuff.
Yeah, just a general how combat is carried out. I think that we're seeing a pretty big evolution. Obviously, I won't go into specifics, but more tactics and formations are starting to form other than just a general shield wall. People trying to come up with some sort of meta, which will obviously change because it is a test and there's going to be a lot of different changes in general to the combat system. But like I said, instead of just a generalized shield wall and maybe a few axemen here and there and some archers scattered about, at least with war, we're starting to come up with these different formations to use in future combat, seeing how it works out, trying to implement as many new strategies and weapons and other shit like that into our battles. I'm not sure if anyone else is doing the same.
Well, have you
Anyone?
guys? Yeah,
Hmm.
so we've thought about doing. We've not had the players for it though, but we've thought about having combo units. So we're a squad-based system. You guys seem to be a Zerg, so you have one line. You don't have like multiple units.
The opposite, actually. We are a Zerg in leadership. So we have our war is sectioned out as if it was an actual military, and we do have multiple units. For example, I started off as well, actually, no, I didn't start off as a ranger. I started off as a Huskarl for a very brief amount of time, and then I moved on to our ranger division, and that's where I was in for a while. But we have multiple different divisions that do different things, including civilian divisions. So, just for a brief rundown, we have the Huskarls, we have the Rangers, we have our cavalry, which is actually two subdivisions, the heavy and the light cavalry, and then we have the main infantry, which has its own two divisions, which are the same thing. Just the infantry is so big and it's our baseline fighting force that we have two different commanders for the same division. And then we also have the Rights Guild, the artisans, and the engineers, and all sorts of stuff like that. I'm not really too keen on the civilian side, but we do have multiple different systems and whatnot. But no, 100%. We're not just a Zerg. We do have units and stuff like that implemented into our ranks.
Okay, yeah. So you can combine two formations into one, or do.
Mhm.
So one of the things we wanted to try out was to have or find out like an optimal number. So you have, is it like so we want to run squads of 10. So you have 5 shields and 5 archers, or is it 2 archers and 8 shields, stuff like that. We haven't. Pardon?
Yeah, no, it sort of the same thing. It's just not as numbers based, more like per situation. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, putting numbers on it just makes it easy to communicate. Otherwise,
Right? Yeah, no.
And another thing we wanted to try was also, because specifically the archers themselves don't necessarily need to be part of those formations. You could do shield, because shields just soak damage. You don't take damage as long as you're facing where the damage is coming from with your shield. And so you just sort of you only do flanking. You make the enemy come towards you or even hit you, but then you just flank every time. Because the people who aren't engaged can still sprint. Stuff like that is stuff we want to try out as well. So you get behind them where their armor or like their shield isn't covering them. Have you thought about stuff like that?
100%. And counters to that sort of stuff were specifically brought up. So I think we're sort of the same mindset. Obviously, won't go into specifics, but yeah, we're definitely thinking about that.
Yeah.
The combat at this stage is kind of difficult in the formation, so a guy with a banner would greatly improve the formations.
What about communication? Do you guys got that muted, or do you just sort of hope that nobody's going to scream the wrong order?
This is war.
We have shot callers.
Yeah. In a line, you have one guy. In one Discord, one guy do the call, but it's hard. With French people, it's very hard to have one guy to lead everyone. But we try.
Yeah, because you have the spirit of your brother. Wait, that sounds so wrong in English. Freedom and brotherhood and all that stuff. All right, no, it's just a joke. So, but yeah, another thing that I also wanted to try was to have not kill the enemy. Literally, do not kill the enemy. Make sure everyone who's spawned in, not the enemy, is at your position, and then don't kill them, so that you can go behind them and take out their base. And then when their base is dead, then you start killing them.
If a clan lets you do that, that means they have an issue with the base. That means that no one's the captain. A captain in Star Citizen, for example, the captain should always stay with the ship, because if you unload the infantry and then the captain leaves, then if you guys need to get a getaway or get people back to medical attention and there's no one to fly the ship, it's going to take infinitely longer for someone to go all the way up to the stern and start controlling everything, or not the stern, the
Cockpit.
Cockpit.
Yep.
And it's sort of the same thing here, is if you as a clan let someone do what you just said to you, you fucked up. Like you should not, that should not be a thing that works unless you're fighting a very specific, like a forward siege camp maybe, and all hands are on deck, are defending the front. You send a group of guys around to partisan and take out the main war tent and start destroying spawns, then that would make sense. But I think if it's an actual base and someone lets you do that to them, then there's something really fucked up with that situation.
Yeah, but you could get away with it, because a siege is usually fairly one-sided, and it takes a lot of time. And if you're able to create like these dead spaces inside the fort where you can go into it but you can't get out unless you have a lot of torches or siege equipment.
Once they realize what you're doing, though, right? How do you not start killing them?
Sorry?
Once they start realizing what you're doing, because your whole plan was to not kill them, send a group around, and then attack from behind. How are you going to get into the base, start destroying everything without them realizing, and then start killing them?
That's what
There
I was
has
saying.
to be.
So you create a dead space where they can come in, but they can't get out inside the fort. So you have cells in the fort, right?
Right.
That was my point.
Right, but what I'm saying is you can't destroy enough of the base for them to not respawn before they realize what you're doing. And if you do, the people who are defending that fort deserve to lose, because you shouldn't allow someone to do that to you. That's such a, that means you left, that means you not only took the majority of your forces outside of that base far enough for them to not respond, but also weren't aggressive enough to make them start killing you. Because once they realize what you're doing, they're going to rush you, whether you're killing them or not, or if they're intimidated by you. If they realize their base is going down, they're not just going to sit around and let you do that.
No,
So
I
they either
know, but
recognize it's happening and respond to it, or they don't recognize and then they lose because they deserve to lose that situation.
I know, but so defending takes less people than it does to attack, obviously.
Mhm.
So you wouldn't need a lot of people to man those walls to be able to just hold them off, or
Right.
stop them from using a ladder, or if you
Right.
had like a air vent kind of system to, just keep that stuff under tabs.
100%, I agree.
And my point with the dead spaces was that technically, if you've gone into a dead space where, because you can get up on a wall and then jump down a wall again, and then you're on the inside, then you can't get out. That was what I meant with the dead space.
Right, but how does that play into your first your first maneuver there, where you don't kill them and you go and destroy their base and then kill them?
No, because so you don't kill them, you let them into your base, right?
Oh, okay, so we're talking about baiting people into a fort.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. I could see that happening, but the people who let that happen to them would also have fucked up quite a bit.
Yes.
Because how do you make a dead cell where they can get in but can't get out in a game like this?
Well, you can, no, there's ways, but the main point is that if you don't have if you're able to kill their RAM, is that what it's called? the RAM.
Yeah, the RAM. Yeah.
Yeah, then it's really difficult to control for the attacker to control movement within the fort because they don't
Right.
have access through a main gate or like actual wall that's been taken out. And if they don't have that and they get into the fort and they just run around there, they're not really able to do a lot because they can't open the doors obviously and they can't destroy any of the doors.
Well, if they got in via RAM, how the only way I can see this working is if the forces that you are baiting into your base are using ladders, haven't built up, so you're relying on them building ladders, getting over the walls, not having a plan to get out, which would mean you guys would have no stairs on your walls to defend them, because if you did, they'd be able to go up the stairs to get out. So I just don't see how this would feasibly work against people, because if they used a RAM, then there's a hole that they're going to get out of, because you can't close that off, because if there's people nearby, you can't build a wall, right? Building is locked off.
Yeah,
if they use ladders to get in, there has to be some way for them to get out. There's no way for you to feasibly lock them off. If they did use ladders and jumped off of the walls with no feasible way to get out again, then they fucked up, and you probably could have just wiped them anyways. They don't seem like a very
I know, but
smart.
it's like fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, right? But if you've never been in a situation before and then you find yourself in that situation, it's not because you're a bad player or bad strategy. It's just the limitations of the game. The only way to die is to starve to death, or if there's a respawn button, right? And so maybe the first time, yeah, oh shit, yeah, this place is completely blocked off. We can't leave, so now we just got to get out. And then
the first thing I do before going into a place is making sure I have a way to get out. If I don't see a way to get out, I'm not going in there.
That's smart, yeah.
But I mean, against people who aren't expecting it, I could, in a specific situation, I could see it working. Yeah.
What about using night attacks?
Oh, 100%. Exploiting the fog of war that night brings is a big thing. It especially worked during that major test, because EL had no idea how many people we had, because they brought way too many people. We brought 20 people and they brought like 50 or 60 people to defend against us. If it was day, they would have been able to scout way beyond our little torchlight and see that we were not a force that they should have been worried about. But because it was night, we had the cover to make that bluff.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Like, it should be nice to make like little sallies out from settlements against hit people's spawn tents if they're they're slipping a bit or whatever, with a small crew at night, with a bunch of torches like that. Like the night cover is pretty nice.
Yep. I mean, I think I saw a really cool attack during the last battle of Exile Legion's base. There was, I think they were Russian or Ukrainian, I don't know. They were rushing the right flank from the north, so that was the left flank. See, that's another thing we should talk about later. But anyway, they were able to get on the flank during the night with the ladder and get up on the wall without anyone.
That was Hyber. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a really amazing attack, and it really caught us off guard. So kudos to those guys.
I was watching that on my game crashed twice, and then I couldn't rejoin, but I was watching it on my phone, and I was so that got my blood pumping, because they were doing a ladder rush, so they were making a shit ton of them, and then Hyber did that thing. Hyber was really good, by the way. They're very good combat force.
Yeah, I think so.
Coordinates.
Huh?
They are called coordinates.
Coordinates.
Yeah,
coordinated. Yeah.
My English is so very bad.
No, you're good.
It's okay. We'll just tell you when we don't understand you. Yeah. Anyway, it was a fun battle. Honestly, it was. It gives me a lot of impressions for this game, which is really positive. I just think there's so many stuff that, like, the meta isn't written yet. Like the meta is kind of that there's no meta, in my opinion. Like, it's not even.
It's still being fleshed out. 100%.
And since it's so early game too, it's gonna change multiple times.
Yeah. I mean, technically there is a quote unquote meta, but it's not really a meta just because we have a lack of an actual meta.
Exactly.
The meta right now is stick as many shield guys on each other as possible. Maybe have some axes in the back line because the sooner you can get the enemy shield wall down, the better. But that's such a basic thing. I don't think we can even call that a meta, really.
Does axes work? I heard that they actually didn't work.
They did. I don't know about the last minor test, but I know for the major test, they do more stamina damage to your shield wall.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, fair
Axes.
enough.
I think we can improve with the PvP states. We can improve it with horses and axes. We can do something with horses and axes.
Horses
More in the
are
battlefield.
horses. I've never really seen horses do. So there's an issue because you don't have. Most people are able to build all of their production inside their, like, inside their walls or whatever. So they don't really need to leave their base to get food. They just need to keep farming. If that makes sense to you. But if there was a way to make growing food slower, so you need bigger farm fields, so you need to leave your base, it could give horses more value because then they could go out and sort of do the whole,
Yeah.
what's it called when you're in an airplane behind enemy lines looking for targets? Come on, you played Hearts of Iron 4?
Ambush?
No, you send them on like interdiction. That's the one. You sort of interdict enemy supply runs and you sort of disrupt their lines of communication.
Yeah, horses right now, people keep trying to bring it up. I'm going to be honest, I don't have a lot of faith in horses right now for one big reason, two big reasons really. But the first one is they're too easy to lose, and then you put so much time and resources into them that it wasn't worth it in the end. The second reason is they're only good for picking off small groups of unorganized players or solo players. If you take a group of 10 horses into a group of a shield wall, that shield wall will win every time.
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it's so hard
I
to
agree.
fight on a horse.
In real life, it works like this. With if you charge a shield wall, it's hard to penetrate it. But I think just few player in horse. Some of my guy do it during the crusade. They passed all the siege on the horse, and they just drop shooting arrows behind the line, and it work. And scouting to know where is the enemy in the battlefield.
Oh, it's like cavalry based.
No, I think that's good. Yeah. No, I think that aspect is good. But in mass combat, horses right now are not good.
You can do mass heavy cavalry to charge.
Yeah, that's true. It would be cool if it worked, but it works in like really small skirmishes, like you said. But the devs could also change some of the game mechanics. Like if they made farm fields much bigger and allowed them to be built outside your town, for example, you wouldn't put them in your town, and you would put them outside of your town, and you would need to. You could use your horses to interdict the farmers that were trying to get that stuff into the town, so you could have an actual siege. But I think during that battle, both sides they ran out of food, so it didn't really matter.
Yeah.
That was funny. We were like shield wall to shield wall, just looking at the enemy like, you guys got food? No. Neither do we. We just left.
Yeah, and then you have the random dude that has an entirety of 3 minutes clocked in, goes to the town hall and 60 berries. Well, I play Minecraft and that's not a lot, so I'm just going to take those.
Yeah, that's exactly what they were complaining about. Yeah. We were talking about creating like a reinforcement system so that people don't just run in, grab stuff, and run out, but there's like a system of reinforcing people. But it's a lot of like extra work for the leadership and the people managing to sort of, because it's a complete manual labor based on communication. And if they don't have a mic, what do? You shoot them with a bow and arrow? You just kill people? Stuff like that?
I mean, if people are griefing, I think so. We've had people steal an entire stack of important shit for the crusade, and I just threw a spear at them because they came in, don't know who they are, started walking out of the gate. I'm like, fuck no, and then I threw a spear into the back of their skull, and they died. And then I got my shit back.
But it's like they're doing it because like, oh, this settlement is under attack, so they just jump in, grab stuff because they want to help, or they just don't know
Oh
what to
no,
do.
we were in the back line. Like this is, I'm not talking about like during the war. I'm talking like day one, right? We had a whole bunch of shit stocked up, and we have the basics of our clan, and it's late at night, and everybody logged off, and then we have some random dude. Nothing's going on right now. There's no way. Even if there was a big war going on, we were at the ass end of the map. It would have taken like 30 minutes to get to the front line where any combat was going on. He just took, like an entire stack of lumber or some shit and started running off, or food or whatever it was. I don't remember. And so
Yeah,
I
you can't put
killed
that
him.
in the town hall. You can only put them in the normal storages. But yeah, it was probably food. But yeah, I mean,
Food, yeah.
I was thinking more for us because one of the things that would be nice is if you had if you could spawn in with all your gear and like one or two types of food, so you're fully laden when you come in. If your town has supplies for it, like a system for that, like a respawner hut or something, where you just put these things into like slots, like archer slot, melee slot, stuff like that. Because right now it's just it's so much manual work to run to get all your equipment and then go to the correct wall, and yeah, it's just a complete chaos basically. So it would be nice if it was if the devs organized a way for us to like better handle that. But I'm not sure like exactly what that is. Right now, like for us to organize defense with a bunch of randoms, it would have to be like you have a enclosed space where they spawn, and you have a person literally blocking them, so they can't leave unless that guy actually moves out of the way. And then you have a second guy with a bow and arrow.
Yeah, personally, I think they need to add, if not a lock on all storages, a specific building that allows you to lock a certain amount of resources in that storage. And I know a lot of people have a problem with that, but that's the only thing that you can do to prevent people from just pledging to the settlement and going to a homestead, going to that storage and just taking whatever the fuck they want out of it. Some sort of storehouse.
We have used the marketplace for that. It stores a lot of resources, but it's not ideal, but
Yeah.
it works for now.
But it's not that, because the thing is, people are going to say this is like bullshit for solo players, but it's not that the people that are solo players are the issue. They're not the issue because they want to help and they have mics and they're just there to sort of fight the enemy or whatever. But it's the people that just grab tens of stuff or 20s of
Right.
stuff, and then they just suck out the entire storage and the granary and everything, and then they
Right.
run out in the field and they get killed, and
Yep.
usually either the enemy takes that or it just despawns eventually, and nobody uses it. So
Yeah,
yeah.
in that sense, they're essentially feeding the enemy.
Yeah, but it didn't happen because we did have that
Yeah.
happen, but it didn't seem like you guys were eating our food anyway because you ran out of food when we did at the same time.
Yeah.
So maybe there was like a
think
food goblin on both
it-
sides. There's a third faction.
Yeah. I
We
think
had a
There
lot of
was,
food in
uh,
that battle.
people in taking a bunch of stuff and not considering we have to limit the food to take only 5 food items.
That's
Keep it
too
on
much.
you. We had
I
800 food we had in our stores at one point. Well, to be fair, we only had one guy at that moment making food religiously.
Yeah, I mean we all had that. It's just food runs out really quickly. If you
Yeah.
grab the max stack of food, that food is gone almost after like 3 people. If you have 1,000
Yeah.
food, I think you can have 3 people carry 1,000 food.
Yeah.
Wait, how much? It's 30 times. Is it 9 in your inventory?
8 with the silver slot in it.
Oh yeah, 8. So it's 8 times 30 is, I don't know. It's a ridiculous number. It's close to 1,000
it's
actually.
240 per person because 8 times
Oh.
3 is 24, so 240 per person. It's about 800.
Yeah, it's so you need
700.
4 people. But anyway, yeah, it goes really quickly. You don't need a lot of people to make that mistake to run out of food. So yeah, I just wish there was a way to sort that out. Like if you have reinforcement supplies, technically they should spawn with full health because we've used food to make that, right? So they should be full health.
Something I have done in my own town, like it's not under wartime, but I just put a bit, like maybe like 50 berry food at a time, and then I store the rest. And when it's like starting to get empty, I restore it, because if it's a lot, if people see that it's like 1,000 berry food, 500 bread, people is gonna take more. But if they see, oh, it's not that much, they only take 1 or 2. So worked, at least in my town.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure we'll find out some system that works, and then people just sort of adopt it. Like, there's probably some sort of organizational genius out there, like the Mozart of organizing people, that's going to come in and just go like, "Oh, hey, just do this," and I was like, "Ah, why didn't we think of that?" And then it just falls into line like that. Like, there's probably going to be like one way of doing it, unless the devs change how people spawn in when they want to be reinforcements, obviously. Like, maybe they have some sort of idea of connecting, because they've taught, because we did see, like, you can ally yourself with another homestead. Could you do the same thing with multiple towns? Like, if you have a neighboring town, you
Yeah,
can.
I vaguely recall. I think one of the devs responded pretty like favorably when someone was talking about like having like taverns or whatever within towns or whatever as the as the reinforcement spawn points sort of. So they'd be like towards the town center, similar to like a foxhole, safe houses in a foxhole or whatever to a town center. And maybe that could be, you could have like multiple strong points for say around, a town, maybe like a tavern and a barracks or whatever. You could like, diversify the little buildings you have or whatever that comprise your settlements as well through that.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, it's been like 2 hours, so I think we're gonna call it. But I think we were able to actually go through every single point and then some. Raven, I don't know if you were satisfied with the.
Oh yeah.
Okay, that's when you say it like that, it sounds kind of wrong, but
We
whatever.
kind of missed the water
No,
part.
no, really. I think it was a good discussion. Obviously, this is not my area of expertise. Is the chill stuff. I'm definitely looking for the combat that the December test will bring, but I still value this back and forth and whatnot, and hopefully, this will be around for future generations of Anvil players, and we can do this every war, every test.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you would do it during. Like, one of the things I was thinking about doing was so during an actual campaign, there is, or sorry, like a month-long battle or whatever, however long it lasts. There's like a middle ground place. You said you wanted to do a tournament, so I want to have a place like a tavern where we can literally just have an in-game podcast in in the game,
Right.
and then don't kill each other or kill each other.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe like a neutral clan can be made where there's, I don't know, the Tavern Guard, Remnants, Tavern Guard, Ancients, and they both defend each other from from whatever douches want to interrupt us. I don't know.
Yeah,
Something
stream
like that.
snipers. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I can get War to help defend that if that's a thing in the future. Who knows?
Yeah, I think we just get some people to show up and help defend, and I think that'd
Yeah.
be good. But yeah, like, cause I think it would be interesting to have a place to have some friendly banter and just sort of share some battle stories, as well as other stuff, just during the combat. But yeah, I think it's not too much work for me to do this. I just wish there's a lot of stuff that I did better. Like, I'm not a great artist, so I can only do like very simple. This is like legit. OBS is such a basic system, so it's not very complicated at all. Anyone can just sort of pick up and do what I'm doing. But I hope to like improve specifically like the combat stuff. Like, an inspiration for me has been, there's this YouTuber called like Does Base Battles or something. He does really nice animations. I wish I could do stuff like that for the battles that we do. I don't know if you've ever seen that guy, but he makes some great stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure the more this picks up and the more interest it grabs from people, then I'm sure, you may get someone who's willing to donate their talents or be a part of it. So I don't know, just keep at it, and I'll definitely be around for the ride. So if I'm ever free, then I'm more than willing to join for this in the future.
All right. Yeah. Cheers, guys. Have a good one.
Yeah, have a
You
good
too.
one.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for
everyone.
joining. I really appreciate it.
Anytime.
Love you all.
Yep.